Hi everyone and welcome. Today I want to talk about all the books that I plan to read in December. Now, December being the last month of the year is actually the only moment that you can finish up some project before you start the new year with hopefully a more or less clean slate. So I do have a big pile of books here next to me, definitely more than I can get to in 1 month normally. So I am going to call this my pile of possibilities, like Jessie from The Bookish Mom does. I think that this is the perfect name for this pile. I actually have 9 books in total, and like I said, normally I can't get to 9 books in 1 month, but because I have a couple of days off from work towards the end of the month in holiday season, of course, I do hope that I can get to the majority of these books. And I also hope that you can help me pick which ones I need to get to first, because I will have some polls in the community tab throughout the month. So hopefully you can help me with that. Now, the reason that I have so many books on the list is because I have a couple of projects that I want to finish, like I said. And while I normally talk about these books in terms of a group of audiobooks that I want to get to and a group of physical reads that I want to get to, this time I am going to talk in terms of these projects. And the first project that I have is that I want to finish up some series, or at least make progress in a couple of series. And I actually did a video a couple of weeks ago, maybe 2 weeks ago, about all the series that I'm currently in the middle of and that I can make progress in because more books are published than the ones that I have read. So if you want to know more about these books, then definitely check out that video that I will link in the tabs. It's not called tabs, what is it called? In the cards up above. Yes, that's it. And I will also put it in the description box. Because I already talked a lot about these books, I will just show them quite briefly, the ones that I picked and that have highest priority of that entire list. And the first one, this is the book that if I read one book in December, it needs to be this one. And that is Queen of Fire by Anthony Ryan. This is the conclusion of the Raven's Shadow trilogy. The first one is Bloodsong. I love Bloodsong, and I definitely need to just finish this series to see how Anthony Ryan concluded it. I know that not everybody loves the conclusion, but I will have to see for myself. The next one is another conclusion, and that is Hollow Empire by Sam Hawke. This is a Poison War novel, and I think that this is a duology, so this will conclude the series. The first one, City of Lies, I quite liked in the beginning of the year, so I'm quite hopeful for this one, and I'm excited to see what the author does. And then the last conclusion, I'm a little bit nervous for this one, and that is Season of Storms by Andrzej Sapkowski. This is the prologue of the Witcher series and also the conclusion of the Witcher series. This one has been on my TBR for so long, and I actually have the audiobook, but it's in Dutch, which is a little bit jarring for me after listening to so much English. So I don't know if I will listen to the audiobook or maybe just pick up the English ebook. Now, those are all the conclusions of series, but I do have 2 series that I want to make progress in. And the first one is the Winnowing Flame trilogy by Jen Williams. This is the second book, The Bitter Twins. I want to get to this one hopefully in December. But the one that is my highest priority in order to make progress in the series is the Shattered Song series by Bradley P. Bolio. This is A Veil of Spears, and it's the 3rd book in the series, and I think that the series in total has 6 books. So that would mean that I'm halfway. Still a long way to go, but I'm quite excited to get my teeth into this series again. So these are already quite a bit of fantasy books that I need to get to. 5 fantasy books in the middle of a series. It's a lot. I don't know if I will be able to get to all of them, but I am excited. However, we still have 2 more projects to talk about, and the first of those 2 is actually new releases of 2021. I think that we as a community, and this is the same for each and every one community, is very much a cult of the new. We hear about these anticipated releases, we hear that a lot of people are excited for these new releases, and we want to be part of the conversation, so these books get hyped up quite a bit. And I want to see, at the end of the year, all of the new releases that I read, is it actually worth it? Or should we focus more on some older books that are out that already have glowing reviews? Also, if you're one of those people who wants to wait until a new release actually has some reviews to make you decide whether or not you want to pick it up, I think that this video might be helpful for you to make your decision. But in order to make that video, I still need to read 3 new releases. And of course, there are a lot more new releases that I couldn't get to, but these 3 are very high on my priority list because I am quite hopeful about them, and I do think that they might be very good. And the first one is The Unbroken by C.L. Clarke. This is the first in a new series. I think that it's called The Magic of the Lost series, and I think that it's going to be a trilogy. Now, this one I'm quite excited for because it's military fantasy, and depending on how this is executed, I might love it or I might not really like it. But I think that there's also quite a bit of political intrigue in this one, and it focuses on a rebellion, which is one of my favorite tropes in fantasy, so that's quite hopeful. Also, you follow a soldier here who was long ago abducted as a child and being forced into this soldier life, which is something that I think will be a quite heavy topic to talk about, but I also think that this will mean that her character will be very interesting to follow, which is something that I'm always looking for. Then the next new release is actually one that I won through ebook, and I won it from the author on her Twitter, Cat Rector, and I will link her Twitter down below. That is The Goddess of Nothing at All. This is also the beginning of a new series, and it's actually a Norse myth retelling, which is something that I absolutely love. The Witch's Heart is my favorite book that came out in 2021 by Genevieve Gornichek, of course. That was a Norse myth retelling where we follow Angerboda, the wife of Loki, or one of the wives of Loki. And in this one, The Goddess of Nothing at All, we follow another wife of Loki. And I know that Genevieve Gornichek absolutely loved this installment, so I definitely need to get to it. I really enjoy these myth retellings where we focus on women that didn't really play a big role in that myth, that weren't really focused on. So I think that this will be perfect. It's also being described as dark fantasy, which I'm here for. So quite excited for that one as well. I want it as an ebook, thanks to the author, of course, for giving it to me and finally giving it a try. And if I like it, I will definitely buy the physical book because it's beautiful. And then the last new release actually is a little bit of both, because it also fits in the next project that I have, which is reading winter books. Because towards the end of the month, I also want to put out a winter recommendation list of books that I think are perfect to read in winter. But this is a little bit lower priority for me because I already have a very big list that I can show you guys. And I don't want to make it too long, so I will probably have a list of 10 books, the 10 best ones. So even if I don't read these, I still have more than 10 that I can recommend. But it's the winter season and I want to read some wintry reads. And then this one is also a new release, so it fits in these two, which is why it's probably quite high on the possibility list to being read in December, especially because I also have the audiobook. And that is Midnight in Everwood by M.A. Kuzniar. This is an adult fantasy standalone and it's a Nutcracker retelling, so perfect to read in winter, I think. I know that Abby Salter said that yes, it's adult fantasy, but it reads a little bit young, so I'm quite curious to see how I will like that. This was actually also a book that I won over at Elliot Brooks's channel. So thank you, Elliot. I'm really excited to get into this one, and the cover is absolutely beautiful. So curious to see what I like with this one. And then I just have one other book on the list, and that's also a wintry read, but I do hope that I can get to this one. I only have 2 on that list anyway, and one of them is a new release. And this one is pretty short, so I think that I can fit it in. And that is The Raven and the Reindeer by T. Kingfisher. This is an author that I wanted to try this year and I haven't yet. And this is a Snow Queen retelling, so the fairy tale of Hans Christian Andersen, which it's a fairy tale retelling, it's a wintry read. It's maybe a little bit darker because the fairy tale of the Snow Queen is a little bit dark, and it's only 200 pages. This is actually one that I wanted to read for my novellas in November, but I couldn't get to it. So I do hope that I can fit it in this month, and that it's as good as I hope that it will be, because I do know that T. Kingfisher has a lot of retellings. She has a Bluebeard retelling as well that I'm eyeing, so if I like this one, I can buy that one. And it's also pretty short. I think that most of her books are short, which in the fantasy world is, you know, a unicum that I'm quite excited for. Every time that I see that it's a short book, it's just something that I can read in between my big fantasy series. I'm intrigued, so let's hope that I like this one. So these are all of the books that I want to read in December. Pray for me that I can get to the majority of these, or maybe a miracle happens and I can actually finish all of them. Please let me know if you have a couple of books on your December TBR that you really need to get to in order to finish a project, to finish a series, and to start 2022 with a clean slate. Or maybe you don't have a TBR at all and you just wing it, which if that's the case, let me know in the comments down below as well. As always, I hope that you liked the video and see you next time. Bye!